The cold afternoon wind whistled through the trees of St. Mary's Old Cemetery, rustling the dry leaves in a macabre dance. João, a middle-aged man, walked slowly among the gravestones, lost in thought. He was there to visit his mother's grave, but something sinister was about to happen. "Have you been here before?" asked an old gravedigger, appearing out of nowhere, his gaze penetrating. "No, it's my first time," replied João, trying to hide his discomfort. "Then be careful where you step. This place holds secrets you can't even imagine," said the gravedigger, disappearing as quickly as he had appeared. João frowned but continued on his way. Little did he know he was about to uncover a secret that would change his life forever. As João approached his mother's grave, the air seemed to grow colder, and the shadows lengthened unnaturally. He knelt by the gravestone, brushing away the leaves that had gathered there. The inscription was simple, yet it brought a lump to his throat. "Here lies Maria, beloved mother and friend." He closed his eyes, whispering a silent prayer. Suddenly, a chill ran down his spine. He opened his eyes to find the gravedigger standing a few feet away, watching him intently. João's heart raced. "Is there something you need?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly. The gravedigger shook his head. "No, but there's something you need to know. This cemetery, it's not just a resting place for the dead. It's a gateway." "A gateway?" João echoed, confusion and fear mingling in his mind. "Yes," the gravedigger replied. "A gateway between our world and the next. And sometimes, the dead are not content to stay on their side." João's heart pounded in his chest. "What do you mean?" The gravedigger stepped closer, his eyes never leaving João's. "Your mother, she has a message for you. But to hear it, you must be willing to listen." João felt a mix of skepticism and curiosity. "How do I listen?" The gravedigger pointed to a nearby mausoleum. "Inside there, you'll find a book. It contains the words of those who have passed on. But be warned, once you open it, you may not like what you hear." Despite his fear, João felt compelled to follow the gravedigger's instructions. He walked to the mausoleum, its heavy stone door creaking as he pushed it open. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of decay. In the center of the room, on a pedestal, lay an ancient book, its cover worn and cracked with age. With trembling hands, João opened the book. The pages were filled with names and dates, each accompanied by a message. He turned the pages slowly until he found his mother's name. Her message was simple, yet it sent a shiver down his spine. "João, beware the man who walks in shadows. He seeks what you hold dear." João's mind raced. Who was this man? What did he want? And what was it that João held dear? He closed the book and hurried out of the mausoleum, his thoughts a whirlwind of fear and confusion. As he stepped back into the cemetery, the gravedigger was gone. João looked around, but there was no sign of him. He felt a sense of urgency, a need to uncover the truth behind his mother's message. Over the next few days, João's life took on a surreal quality. He found himself constantly looking over his shoulder, feeling as though he was being watched. He began to notice strange occurrences, shadows that moved on their own, whispers in the night, and a sense of being followed. One evening, as he walked home from work, he saw a figure standing in the shadows. The man was tall and thin, his face obscured by a hood. João's heart raced as he realized this must be the man his mother had warned him about. "Who are you?" João called out, his voice trembling. The man stepped forward, his eyes gleaming in the dim light. "I am the keeper of secrets," he said, his voice cold and menacing. And you, Joao, are in possession of something that belongs to me. Joao's mind raced. What could this man possibly want? I don't know what you're talking about, he said, trying to keep his voice steady. The man smiled, a cruel, twisted smile. Oh, but you do. You have something very valuable, something that can open the gateway permanently. And I will stop at nothing to get it. Joao's heart pounded in his chest. He had no idea what this man was talking about, but he knew he had to protect himself. Stay away from me, he said, backing away slowly. The man laughed, a chilling sound that echoed in the night. You can't escape me, Joao. The gateway is opening, and soon, the dead will walk among the living. And it will be your fault. With that, the man disappeared into the shadows, leaving Joao standing there, trembling with fear. He knew he had to find out what this man wanted and how to stop him. But he also knew that time was running out. Over the next few days, Joao delved into the history of St. Mary's Cemetery, uncovering dark secrets and forgotten legends. He learned of a powerful artifact hidden within the cemetery that could open the gateway between the worlds. It was said to be a key crafted from the bones of the dead and imbued with ancient magic. Joao realized that this must be what the man was after. He knew he had to find the key before the man did, or risk unleashing untold horrors upon the world. With a sense of determination, Joao returned to the cemetery, searching for clues. He combed through old records, spoke to the few remaining caretakers, and explored every corner of the grounds. Finally, he found a hidden chamber beneath the mausoleum, its entrance concealed by a heavy stone slab. Inside, he discovered an ancient chest, its surface covered in intricate carvings. With trembling hands, Joao opened the chest, revealing a small, bone key. He knew this was the artifact the man sought. As he held the key, Joao felt a surge of power, a connection to the spirits of the dead. He knew he had to protect it, to keep it out of the hands of the man in shadows. But he also knew he couldn't do it alone. Joao sought out the gravedigger, hoping he could provide guidance. He found the old man tending to a grave, his expression grave. I found the key, Joao said, holding it out for the gravedigger to see. The gravedigger's eyes widened. You must keep it safe, he said urgently. The man in shadows will stop at nothing to get it. But there is a way to seal the gateway, to prevent him from ever using it. Joao listened intently as the gravedigger explained the ritual, a complex series of steps that would bind the key and close the gateway forever. It would require great courage and strength, but Joao knew he had no choice. As night fell, Joao and the gravedigger prepared for the ritual. They gathered the necessary ingredients, drew the protective symbols, and recited the ancient incantations. The air crackled with energy as they worked, the spirits of the dead watching silently. Just as they were about to complete the ritual, the man in shadows appeared, his eyes blazing with fury. You cannot stop me, he snarled, lunging at Joao. With a surge of determination, Joao held up the key, its power radiating through him. The man recoiled, his form flickering like a shadow. This ends now, Joao said, his voice steady. The gravedigger joined Joao, their combined strength overwhelming the man in shadows. With a final, desperate cry, the man dissolved into darkness, his presence vanquished. As the ritual concluded, the gateway sealed, Joao felt a sense of peace wash over him. He knew his mother was watching, her spirit finally at rest. He had faced his fears, uncovered the truth, and protected the world from a great evil. And as he walked away from St. Mary's Cemetery, the wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it a sense of closure and hope. Joao knew he would never forget the secrets he had uncovered, but he also knew he had the strength to face whatever lay ahead. Turning a corner between two large crypts, Joao stopped abruptly. Before him stood a gravestone with his own name and date of birth inscribed on it. But what made him shudder was the date of death, the very next day. "Is this some kind of joke?" he murmured, looking around for the gravedigger. As he tried to process the situation, a familiar figure appeared. It was Anna, his ex-wife, whom he hadn't spoken to in years. "Joao, what are you doing here?" she asked, surprised. I don't know. I came to visit my mother and found this," he replied, pointing to the gravestone. Anna looked at the gravestone and went pale. "We need to get out of here now," she said, pulling him by the arm. Joao allowed Anna to lead him away, his mind racing with questions. Why was his name on that gravestone? And why was Anna here, of all people? As they hurried through the cemetery, the wind picked up, carrying with it an eerie whisper that sent chills down his spine. Once they were outside the cemetery gates, Anna finally stopped, breathing heavily. "Joao, there's something you need to know," she said, her voice trembling. "This cemetery, it's cursed. And now, it seems, you're a part of that curse." Joao stared at her, bewildered. "What are you talking about?" Anna took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. "After we separated, I started researching the history of this place. There are stories, legends, about people who see their own graves here. Those people, they don't have long to live." Joao felt a cold dread settle over him. "You mean, this isn't just a prank?" Anna shook her head. "No, it's very real. And if we don't do something, you'll die tomorrow." Joao's mind reeled. He had come to the cemetery to pay his respects, not to confront his own mortality. "What can we do?" he asked, desperation creeping into his voice. "There might be a way to break the curse," Anna said, her eyes filled with determination. "But it won't be easy. We need to find the source of the curse and destroy it." Joao nodded, willing to do whatever it took to survive. "Where do we start?" Anna led him to her car, and they drove to her apartment. Once inside, she pulled out a stack of old books and papers, spreading them out on the table. "I've been researching this for years," she explained. "There are references to an ancient artifact, hidden somewhere in the cemetery. It's said to be the source of the curse." Joao looked at the papers, feeling a mix of hope and fear. "How do we find it?" Anna pointed to a map of the cemetery, marked with various symbols and notes. "I've narrowed it down to a few possible locations. We'll have to search each one until we find it." As night fell, Joao and Anna returned to the cemetery, armed with flashlights and a sense of urgency. They moved quickly and quietly, searching the crypts and mausoleums for any sign of the artifact. The wind howled around them, and the shadows seemed to move on their own, but they pressed on, driven by the need to break the curse. Hours passed, and they had searched nearly every location on the map. Exhausted and disheartened, they finally approached the last crypt. It was larger and more ornate than the others, its entrance guarded by stone angels. Joao pushed open the heavy door, and they stepped inside, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. In the center of the crypt, on a pedestal, lay a small, ornate box. Joao's heart raced as he approached it, his hands trembling. He opened the box, revealing a strange, twisted object made of bone and metal. "This must be it," he said, his voice barely a whisper. Anna nodded, her eyes wide with awe and fear. "We need to destroy it." Joao hesitated, feeling the weight of the artifact in his hands. It radiated a dark energy, filling him with a sense of dread. But he knew they had no choice. He placed the artifact on the ground and raised a heavy stone, bringing it down with all his strength. The artifact shattered, releasing a burst of energy that knocked them both to the ground. The air crackled with electricity, and the shadows seemed to scream in agony. Then, just as suddenly, it was over. The crypt was silent, the curse broken. Joao and Anna lay on the cold stone floor, catching their breath. "Is it over?" Joao asked, his voice hoarse. Anna nodded, a faint smile on her lips. "Yes, it's over. You're safe now." Joao felt a wave of relief wash over him. He had faced his own death and survived, thanks to Anna. He looked at her, gratitude and something more filling his heart. "Thank you, Anna. I don't know what I would have done without you." Anna smiled, her eyes softening. "We're in this together, Joao. Always." As they left the cemetery, the first light of dawn breaking over the horizon, Joao felt a renewed sense of hope. He had faced the darkness and come out the other side, stronger and more determined than ever. And with Anna by his side, he knew he could face whatever challenges lay ahead. As they left the cemetery, Anna revealed that she had been investigating a series of strange events in the city. She was convinced that someone was toying with people's lives, and Joao seemed to be the next victim. "I found old documents that talk about a secret society performing rituals in this cemetery," she said, showing him an old diary. "Do you think this has to do with the gravestone?" Joao asked, still incredulous. "I have no doubt," Anna replied. "We need to find the gravedigger. He knows more than he's letting on." Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, a young journalist named Pedro was investigating the disappearance of several people. He had found a connection between the disappearances and St. Mary's Cemetery. Determined to uncover the truth, he began to follow the trail of Joao and Anna. Pedro managed to track the gravedigger to an old cabin on the outskirts of the cemetery. Peering through the window, he overheard a revealing conversation. "You shouldn't have placed the gravestone so early," said an unfamiliar voice. "It was a mistake, but now it's too late," replied the gravedigger. Pedro knew he needed to alert Joao and Anna before it was too late. Back at the cemetery, Joao and Anna were searching for the gravedigger, hoping to get answers. The eerie silence of the cemetery was broken only by the rustling of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. They navigated through the maze of gravestones and crypts, their flashlights casting long shadows. "We need to find him before nightfall," Anna said, her voice tense with urgency. Joao nodded, his mind racing with the implications of what Anna had told him. A secret society performing rituals, his name on a gravestone with tomorrow's date. Everything seemed like a nightmare from which he couldn't wake. As they approached the old cabin, they saw a figure moving inside. "That's him," Anna whispered. They moved closer, trying to stay out of sight. Inside the cabin, the gravedigger was pacing nervously. "We need to fix this," he said, his voice strained. "If Joao finds out the truth, everything will be ruined." The unfamiliar voice replied, "We have no choice. We must proceed with the ritual tonight." Pedro, still spying from the window, realized the urgency of the situation. He slipped away from the cabin and hurried back to the cemetery, hoping to find Joao and Anna before it was too late. Joao and Anna were about to knock on the cabin door when Pedro emerged from the shadows, startling them. "Wait," he whispered urgently. "I overheard them talking. They're planning something tonight. We need to stop them." Anna looked at Pedro, recognizing him from the news. "Pedro, what are you doing here?" I'm investigating the disappearances, Pedro replied. And I think they're connected to what's happening to Joao. Joao felt a chill run down his spine. What did you hear? He asked. Pedro quickly relayed the conversation he had overheard. They're planning a ritual tonight. We need to find out what it is and stop them. The three of them formulated a plan. They would confront the gravedigger and the unknown accomplice, demanding answers. With a sense of determination, they approached the cabin once more, this time ready to face whatever awaited them inside. Bursting through the door, they found the gravedigger and another man, cloaked in shadows, standing by a table covered in strange symbols and candles. What is this? Joao demanded, his voice shaking with anger and fear. The gravedigger's eyes widened in surprise. You shouldn't be here, he said, his voice trembling. We know about the rituals, Anna said, stepping forward. And we know you're involved in the disappearances. The cloaked man stepped into the light, revealing a face twisted with malice. You have no idea what you're meddling with, he sneered. This is beyond your comprehension. Pedro stepped forward, his voice steady. We know enough. You're using this cemetery for your twisted rituals, and Joao is your next victim. We're here to stop you. The gravedigger looked at Joao, his eyes filled with a mix of fear and regret. I never wanted this, he said. But they forced me. They control everything. Joao felt a surge of anger. Who are they? And why me? The cloaked man laughed, a cold, chilling sound. You were chosen, Joao. Your life, your death, it all serves a greater purpose. The society needs your sacrifice to complete the ritual and gain unimaginable power. Anna's eyes blazed. Joao and Anna returned to the cemetery at night, determined to confront the gravedigger. As they approached the cabin, they found Pedro waiting for them, his face etched with urgency. He quickly relayed everything he had discovered. We need to get inside and grab the gravedigger's diary. It has all the answers, Pedro insisted. The three of them moved cautiously towards the cabin, their hearts pounding with a mix of fear and determination. Joao pushed open the door, and they stepped inside, their flashlights casting eerie shadows on the walls. The cabin was cluttered with old books, papers, and strange artifacts, but there was no sign of the gravedigger. Just as they were about to search the room, the gravedigger appeared from a back room, his eyes wide with panic. He tried to bolt past them, but Joao lunged forward, grabbing him by the arm. You're not going anywhere, Joao said, his voice filled with resolve. The gravedigger struggled, but Joao's grip was firm. Let me go. You don't understand, he cried, desperation in his voice. We understand enough, Anna said coldly. We know about the rituals and the disappearances. We know you're involved. Pedro stepped forward, his eyes locked on the gravedigger. We need your diary. It has the answers we need. The gravedigger's face twisted with fear and resignation. You don't know what you're doing, he said, his voice trembling. If the ritual isn't completed, we're all in danger. Joao tightened his grip, his eyes blazing with anger. What do you mean? Explain. The gravedigger took a deep breath, his eyes darting around the room as if searching for an escape. The ritual, it's ancient. It binds the spirits of the dead, keeps them from crossing over into our world. If it's not completed, the barrier between the worlds will break, and the dead will walk among the living. Anna's eyes narrowed. And what does that have to do with Joao? The gravedigger's shoulders slumped, and he looked at Joao with a mixture of pity and fear. You were chosen as the final sacrifice. Your death would complete the ritual and strengthen the barrier. Without it, the spirits will break free. Joao felt a cold dread settle over him. So, my life is just a pawn in your ritual? The gravedigger nodded, his eyes filled with sorrow. I never wanted this. I was forced into it by the society. They control everything. Pedro stepped closer, his voice steady. Who are they? And why Joao? The gravedigger hesitated, then sighed deeply. The society is made up of powerful individuals, people who seek to control the forces of life and death. They chose Joao because of his connection to this place, his mother's grave. It made him the perfect candidate. Joao's mind raced, trying to process everything. So, if the ritual isn't completed, what happens? The gravedigger's eyes darkened. The spirits will break free, and chaos will reign. The living and the dead will be trapped in a nightmare. Ana looked at Joao, her eyes filled with determination. We need to find a way to stop this without sacrificing you. Pedro nodded in agreement. There has to be another way. We need to find out more about this ritual and the society. The gravedigger shook his head. You don't understand. The ritual is the only thing keeping the barrier intact. Without it, we're all doomed. Joao released his grip on the gravedigger, his mind whirling with possibilities. There has to be another way, he said, more to himself than anyone else. We need to find out more about this society and their rituals. Pedro moved to the cluttered desk, rifling through the papers and books. There has to be something here that can help us, he muttered. Ana joined him, her eyes scanning the pages for any clues. Look for anything that mentions an alternative to the ritual, she said. As they searched, the gravedigger watched them with a mixture of fear and resignation. You're wasting your time, he said quietly. The society has been performing this ritual for centuries. There's no other way. Joao ignored him, his focus on the task at hand. We have to try, he said firmly. I'm not going to just accept my fate without a fight. After what felt like hours, Pedro finally found something. Here, he said, holding up a tattered book. This mentions a counter-ritual, something that can reinforce the barrier without a sacrifice. Ana took the book, her eyes scanning the pages. It's complicated, but it might work. We'll need some specific ingredients and a lot of preparation. Joao felt a glimmer of hope. Then let's do it. We don't have much time. The gravedigger looked at them, his eyes filled with doubt. You're playing with forces you don't understand. If you fail, the consequences will be dire. Pedro met his gaze, determination etched on his face. We don't have a choice. We're not going to let Joao die for this. With the counter-ritual in hand, they left the cabin, their minds focused on the task ahead. They gathered the necessary ingredients, working tirelessly through the night. The air crackled with tension as they prepared, the weight of their mission pressing down on them. As dawn approached, they were ready. They returned to the cemetery, the atmosphere heavy with anticipation. Joao stood in the center of the ritual circle, his heart pounding in his chest. Ana and Pedro began the incantations, their voices steady and strong. The ground trembled beneath them, and the air grew cold. Shadows danced around them, and the spirits of the dead seemed to watch with bated breath. Joao felt a surge of energy, a connection to the spirits and the barrier that separated their worlds. As the final words of the counter-ritual were spoken, a blinding light enveloped them. The ground shook violently, and Joao felt as if he were being torn apart. But then, just as suddenly, it was over. The light faded, and the cemetery was silent. Joao looked around, his heart still racing. "Did it work?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Anna nodded, her eyes filled with relief. "The barrier is reinforced. The spirits are at peace." Pedro smiled, exhaustion etched on his face. "We did it." "You're safe, Joao." The gravedigger, who had watched the entire ritual in stunned silence, shook his head in disbelief. "I never thought it was possible," he said quietly. "You've done what I thought was impossible." Joao felt a wave of relief wash over him. He had faced his own death and survived, thanks to Anna and Pedro. He looked at them, gratitude and something more filling his heart. "Thank you," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "I couldn't have done this without you." Anna smiled, her eyes softening. "We're in this together, Joao. Always." As they left the cemetery, the first light of dawn breaking over the horizon, Joao felt a renewed sense of hope. He had faced the darkness and come out the other side, stronger and more determined than ever. And with Anna and Pedro by his side, he knew he could face whatever challenges lay ahead. With the diary in hand, Joao, Anna, and Pedro discovered how to interrupt the ritual. They needed to destroy an ancient amulet hidden in the cemetery before midnight. Racing against time, they scoured the cemetery, their hearts pounding with urgency. The wind howled around them, and the shadows seemed to dance with malevolent intent. Every minute that passed felt like an eternity as they searched, guided by the cryptic clues in the gravedigger's diary. Finally, deep within a forgotten crypt, they found the amulet. It was a twisted piece of metal and bone, pulsating with dark energy. Joao felt a chill run down his spine as he held it, the weight of its sinister power almost too much to bear. "This is it," he said, his voice barely a whisper. Anna and Pedro nodded, their faces set with determination. They knew what they had to do. In a desperate act, Joao raised the amulet high and brought it down against a stone slab, shattering it into 1,000 pieces. The air crackled with energy, and for a moment, it felt as if the very fabric of reality was tearing apart. Then, as suddenly as it began, it was over. The oppressive weight lifted, and the cemetery was silent once more. The gravestone with Joao's name vanished, and a profound sense of relief washed over them. Days later, Joao and Anna sat in a quaint cafe, the events of that fateful night still fresh in their minds. They sipped their coffee in silence, each lost in their thoughts. "I never imagined something like this could be real," Joao said, breaking the silence. His eyes were filled with a mixture of disbelief and awe. Anna reached across the table, taking his hand in hers. "Life is full of mysteries. The important thing is that we're alive and together again," she replied, her voice soft and reassuring. They shared a smile, the bond between them stronger than ever. Pedro, now a renowned journalist, had written a revealing article about the events, alerting the city to the hidden dangers lurking in their midst. His words were a call to vigilance, a reminder that even in the most ordinary places, dark secrets could be hiding. "Sometimes, the darkest secrets are right in front of our eyes," he concluded in his article, his message resonating with readers far and wide. As Joao and Anna reflected on everything that had happened, they felt a deep sense of gratitude. They had faced unimaginable horrors and come out stronger on the other side. The experience had changed them, forging a new path forward. They knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The city, too, was changed by Pedro's article. People became more aware of their surroundings, more attuned to the hidden currents of their world. The cemetery, once a place of fear and mystery, became a symbol of resilience and the triumph of courage over darkness. João and Ana continued to visit the cemetery, not out of fear, but out of respect for the past and hope for the future. They would stand by the spot where João's gravestone had once stood, a reminder of the fragility of life and the strength of the human spirit. Pedro's career flourished, his reputation as a fearless journalist cemented by his brave reporting. He continued to uncover hidden truths and bring them to light, driven by the belief that knowledge and awareness were the greatest weapons against the unknown. In the end, the story of João, Ana, and Pedro was one of triumph over adversity, of discovering strength in the face of fear, and of the unbreakable bonds that form when people come together to confront the darkness. Their journey had been harrowing, but it had also been a testament to the power of courage, love, and determination. As they moved forward with their lives, they carried with them the lessons they had learned. They knew that the world was full of mysteries, some dark and some wondrous, and that facing them head-on was the only way to truly live. The cemetery of Saint Mary, with its ancient secrets and hidden dangers, had been a crucible that forged their spirits and strengthened their resolve. And so, life went on. João and Ana found new joy in their rekindled relationship, cherishing each moment and never taking their time together for granted. Pedro continued his work, driven by a passion for uncovering the truth and a commitment to protecting the public from hidden threats. The city, forever changed by the revelations of Pedro's article, grew more vigilant and more united. People began to look out for one another, understanding that the true strength of a community lay in its ability to stand together in the face of adversity. In quiet moments, João would think back to that night in the cemetery, the fear and the uncertainty, and he would feel a profound sense of gratitude. He had been given a second chance, a new lease on life, and he intended to make the most of it. He and Ana would often sit together, hand in hand, and reflect on the journey they had taken and the future they now faced. The story of their struggle and triumph became a part of the city's lore, a reminder to all who heard it that even in the darkest times, there is always hope, and that the human spirit is capable of incredible resilience and strength. And so, the tale of João, Ana, and Pedro came to an end, leaving behind a legacy of courage, love, and the enduring power of truth. In the quiet corners of the city, beneath the ancient trees of Saint Mary's Cemetery, their story lived on, a beacon of light in a world that could sometimes seem so dark.